right, Mike. You guys are talked about a lot in this city because of the Cowboys being the number one most penalized team. We had a problem with Mike McCarthy and the players blaming the refs versus their own play. Right. From an official's perspective, well, first off, your take on the San Francisco play that ended the Cowboys season with Dak Prescott. A lot of Cowboy fans said, the trailing official was too far back. Can you hand it to the up? Can you hand it to the center? Can you give us the officiating breakdown on that play from your angle?
Well, it's a tough play because you talk about situational awareness, and officials do that. They try to anticipate down and distance. Is it going to be a pass? Is it going to be a run? And in that situation, you're kind of thinking pass, outside, boundary line, and you're not thinking about run. But when it happens, obviously you do have to react. And, the thing is, it's that play was probably a victim of what I did in 2010 before I left. I gave the umpires a pass and said, I'm going to move you to the offensive backfield because you're getting killed. And strictly because of injury purposes, that's why I made that move before I left, knowing that it would create some holes. It would create some holes when it comes to trap passes over the middle because the umpire is now almost really 23 yards away from where he was normally at one point. So he had a lot further to go, and he did get a little bit of a late start, but I think it's situational again. I can't blame him, for the situation, but I would say that you learn from every situation. If I were to say to the umpire, what would you do again in that same situation? You chase the ball, you touch the ball, you don't move the ball. And that's the one thing he did, because the spot was 1 yard in advance. But when it comes time versus spot, when you know that it's going to be a spike, then you touch the ball, let them spike it. And then if you need to afterwards move the ball back 1 yard, you can do that. But it was so close that, maybe that fraction of a second when he picked up the ball and maybe that made a difference. There's a lot of maybes in there. Maybe there's a difference if they would have handed him the ball initially and let him put it down. It's a lot of maybes, but when you snap the ball with 14 seconds to go and no timeouts, you're in a tough situation. Right. But I think the Cowboys are responsible. I think the officials are responsible. And ultimately, I think I'm responsible because if I'd have left the damn umpire where he was, they probably would have got another play. But it didn't happen.
So this is your fault. You're now more hated here than Dean Blandino.
I can't be. If I'm hated anywhere more than Dean Blandino, I'm going to quit. I'm going to quit.
Did you guys have?
He's hated in Dallas. Come on.
Did you guys have Blandino? Now we've had Dean on. We joke with him. We think he's a great guy, but how is there not resentment towards Blandino in your line of work? That this guy never put in his work, and now he gets to be a TV star up here with us. Where's the? How did that happen?
How can you say that he didn't put in any work? I mean, he will be the first to tell you that he made the greatest officiating call ever in the beach media game prior to the Super Bowl, and I think it was 2007, one sideline catch, and he thinks that qualifies him, to be an official. But to his credit, I mean, he is the guy that almost single-handedly put instant replay together in 1999. If there was a father of instant replay, I would say it was Art McNally, who I believe will get into the Hall of Fame this year. He's the one that started it in '86, looking at it and ran an experiment from 86 to 91 or something like that. But Dean then would be the son of instant replay because he's had all that experience. He runs the NCAA officiating program now, so he's eminently qualified. I just don't like the fact that he's younger and better looking than I am. That's the thing that I hate.
Mike Pereira here on Shan and RJ 105.3 The Fan. Mike, does a team gain a reputation that sticks with them? Like if you're heading into the 13th game of the season and the Cowboys are number one in the league in penalties, does that just naturally play into an official's mind? And we always ask this question. It's an age-old question. Parcells talked about it here. Do you coach penalties or not? Well, if Mike McCarthy invited you here to DFW and said, come talk to my team, what would you tell them on how to fix their penalty issues and whether it travels with them as a reputation?
Well, let me address the first thing. I don't think it travels with them, and officials don't read statistics. I mean, they read the newspapers, but they don't read statistics. And so, and you're not going to have an officiating crew that's ever going to see the Cowboys more than twice in a season. So I don't buy the notion that and this goes much further back than Dallas. It goes back to the Oakland Raiders, who always felt like they were the team that were getting picked on, that the league didn't like Al Davis, and so therefore they told the officials, go out and screw the Raiders. It's not the truth. It's a myth. But on the other hand, you just get teams that aren't disciplined. And when you look at penalty totals, you got to go back and look at the stats on the false starts and the delay of games and the offsides. Those, to me, that are concentration penalties. And, I've been in games before. You could have a low penalty team that's not penalized very much, and all of a sudden you're on the field and you get into a game and a bunch of penalties get called, and it seems like, my God, you can't stop it. But you look at all the penalties that are called and they're there. So it's hard to not call penalties that are blatantly there in front of you. And the end of that 49er game, I was with Troy, and we had flown back from Tampa, and we were on his phone watching the last minute of the game. And we watched that whole thing unfold, and that was incredible. I'm talking about the 49er game. And then when I got in the car on the way to the hotel in Dallas, I listened to Babe Laufenberg, and he commented on it. He said the Cowboys got 14 penalties, and he was kind of upset. And he said, they deserve them.
Yeah.
He said maybe 1 out of 14 was questionable, but 13 were clearly penalties and were deserved. So, two people that I thought taught penalty prevention the best of anybody were Parcells and Mike Westhoff. Mike Westhoff, who was the special teams coach with Miami and then with the Jets, they really taught penalty prevention. How? Because they took punitive action in practice when people did foul. And so if you looked at the history of foul totals for those two coaching careers, you would see that the numbers are pretty low. And there are others too, but unfortunately, the Cowboys just had a struggle with penalties.
Mike, you had said, I was reading an article, you had said that you don't think that the officiating in the league is as good as the officials are. Like, obviously there's an issue with it. Is it as simple a fix as maybe just adding an official to the field, maybe getting one more so there's no blind spots because the game moves faster now than it ever has? I mean, what is the fix?
Well, I don't think the fix is adding an 8th official, although you could say that every Power 5 conference in the NCAA has 8 officials now. They have somebody in that spot that I vacated that continues to get run over from time to time. So I don't think it's adding an official. You read articles. You read that comment that I have made, and the league doesn't like to hear me say that, but that's the way I feel. I do feel that the group of officials is really good, but I don't feel that the officiating has kept up with the level of improvement that the overall group has. Why? I think it's technology, believe it or not. I mean, right now, and we were talking about, because I was on a Zoom call yesterday because I'm working with the USFL and their officials. And I said to the officials last night, although I'm going to have communication with you in the USFL, I am not going to tell you what to call. And you can't come to me to ask me what you're going to call. And I think that's what this technology now in the NFL has done. They put their finger on the button on their belt line, asking for help. And it's hurt officiating. It's caused hesitancy. It's caused for delays. And I think it's taken the, I don't want to call it necessarily power, but it's the initiative of you yourself making the call. And I just think as I watch these expedited reviews and I watch these video assistants, all these things. This game's hardly being officiated on the field anymore. And so I look at it and I see things happen, whether it was the Jerome Boger crew in the wild card game where they had to mess up on the whistle being blown and, and they still gave the touchdown. And I look at all these and say, they just don't officiate the game on their own anymore. We had to do it. I mean, my time, we had to do it. If you threw a flag for pass interference and the foul occurred at the 22-yard line, you had to get your flag to the 22-yard line. Now you throw a flag and then you get on your button and you push button. Okay, where was the spot? No, okay, where? 22. Okay, I'll move it to the 22. I don't like it. Now, I'm a bit old school, but, to me, replay, when it came in 1999, I loved it. I loved it all the way through 2010 because I worked in the league office. And so anything that could be corrected, I thought that was great. But now I kind of think replay and technology has gone beyond what it was intended to do, and it's hurt the product, the actual product of officiating on the field.
Jerry Jones told us that he didn't see any reason or he didn't see why making officials full-time, as some have suggested, would actually benefit that much. What do you say to the person who says, make it full-time and year-round and officiating would improve?
Here's what I would say to Jerry. Think outside the box a little bit, Jerry. I agree with your comments in general, but I think it's time to do something to try to make a major step, break it down and start over again to a degree. And while I do not think that 125 officials need to be full-time, I think that the 17 referees, the Ron Torberts of the world, who will be refereeing the Super Bowl on Sunday, all 17 of those referees need to be full-time. I mean, full-time. They need to be involved in every part of the process, evaluation, training, everything. They almost need to become referees / supervisors. And so my thoughts, when I left the league in 2099, I did a report for Roger Goodell and said, it's time to make a move. We need to have an officiating institute in Dallas. And after the game is over on Sundays, the 17 referees go to Dallas. They don't go home. They go to Dallas. They break down film together. They discuss things together. They take rules tests together. They do everything together so that when they leave the next Friday to go to their game, when they meet with their crew, they're giving consistent messages that have been talked about together for an entire week. And I think that would make a difference. Plus, these guys, the 17 referees, are the face of officiating. They need to do some training, some visual training, and work on signals and work on announcements and work on replay, work on all these things. And to me, that would make a big difference. And, somebody said to me, I think Roger said to me at the time, if he even read it, he said, well, some of these referees, they won't want to do it. Well, the hell they won't. I mean, their egos are such that they love being, on camera on Sundays, and they love what they're doing. And if you pay them what they should get paid, equal to a baseball umpire or a NBA basketball referee or more, if you pay them, they'll do it. And if they don't, adios. Go back to another position and get another guy in, because if you have access to the referee every week for an 18-week regular season and then throw in the preseason, you could take a rookie and he will improve 5 times quicker than he will if you just do it the way they're doing now. So to me, that's the next big step that needs to be taken. But again, I will say I wrote the report in 2009, and it obviously didn't go very far.
Last one, Mike Pereira. Cowboy fans want to know if they should be worried about Dak's comments at the San Francisco presser when he said, fans were throwing things at the officials? Good. He later took it back and retracted it. Is that something that will haunt Dak in the minds of a ref next year?
No, I mean, the referees, and they have to have short memories. They're not going to remember that. And I'd like to say, I think about the fact that, when I said they read the papers, so they heard the comments, but I would say they're never influenced by it. Although Tom Brady said he gets away with a lot when he talks about referees, and what happened to him. He got rang up the very next game. He got an unsportsmanlike conduct for his verbal assault, whatever it was, to Sean Hockley. But no, if I'm Dak Prescott, I thought that his apology was a little late, but it was sincere, and so I think that probably Cowboy fans have a bunch of other things to worry about other than whether Dak Prescott's going to be retaliated for saying that.
Are you going to be working with Aikman next year?
Well, I sure hope so. That's all I can say. I hope, and I don't know if it's just the fact that I like working with him or I want to drink more of his 8 beer. I don't know. It might be the beer thing, but I really hope so. I have just gotten to the point where I appreciate Troy and the effort that he goes through and studies, and even when it comes to officiating and his openness to listen to me. Even when he's talking, when I get right in his ear to give him a tidbit of information. And so I know whatever he does, he'll end up solidly on his feet. But I hope that I spend many more games standing right next to him in the booth.